Thank you to all. Good to see all of you, and thank you to all the trusted servants. Thank you to the newcomer, welcome, and thank you to NA Malaysia. I'm so glad to see that the fellowship is growing and people are getting involved, getting into service. That's beautiful. Anyway, so thank you, Charles, for inviting me. Zam, all the trusted servants. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for including me. And let me give you a little background on myself. When I was in community college, I would take classes that would interest me, but I would never follow through. I had a passion for learning. I had a passion for learning on topics such as philosophy, archaeology, history, and I would devour the text. But when it came time for lectures, for discussions, I would be getting loaded. I was always absent. And as my addiction progressed, what I started realizing is that I had the ability and capacity for learning, but I did not have the ability and capacity for having an open mind. And when Charles suggested that I could have the topic of open-mindedness can keep us teachable, I saw that as a great opportunity to get honest about myself. See, when I first came to Narcotics Anonymous, one of my first meetings, I had that closed mind. What can I learn from these people? I came with the intention of getting the secret of how to control my using, not how to be in recovery, not how to change my life, not how to have a spiritual daily program. I thought there was an easy way of finding out how I could control the way I was using. See, I was facing a prison term if I violated my probation. And so I was making a half-hearted effort of showing up until one day something happened. If I try to explain it as a child might, something magical happened. But as a person and a member of Narcotics Anonymous with hindsight, what I can share with you is a miracle happened in my life. I was sitting in my seat at a meeting, again, just going through the motions until the previous speakers shared part of what I heard. Somebody was reading Who is an Addict, and it ended by saying, an addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by drugs. And I knew, all of a sudden, I began to think, wait a minute. I'm facing going to prison because of my drug use. I'm here trying to control when I use and how much I use and what I use. And I realized this is a magical thing. This is a miracle. I realized that there was an opening in this concrete mind of mine that says, oh my God, I'm an addict. See, I thought I was supposed to say I'm an addict just to be accepted. But I realized that it is me. My life is controlled by drugs. See, so I started realizing that there's an opportunity, not for the secret, not just to get over on my probation officer, but that maybe, just maybe, I could learn something that might change my life. That was for an instant. It took a couple of other meetings until I heard something else. We have a lot of sayings that a lot of addicts repeat over and over. And at face value, they sound cliche, but there's some profound meaning behind it. And I heard another addict at another meeting saying, when I arrived, I was a hopeless dope fiend. And because of Narcotics Anonymous, I become a dopeless hope fiend. And I thought, how in the hell did they arrive at that? And what I did not realize is that, see, the God of my understanding, that my higher power was communicating through the way I understand my higher power communicates to me. It's through other recovering addicts. I was just amazed. And I started seeing that there was an opportunity here. And so I started paying more attention. And I started realizing, that working the steps as I got to work with my sponsor, working the steps is not a matter of doing homework. It's a matter of paying attention, just like I paid attention when I read a philosophy text, when I read something in archaeology, because I was fascinated by what it said, and come to find out that everything in our basic text and all our literature was written by addicts for addicts. And I was fascinated by that. And I started realizing that I was actually being taught, and that miracle that happened occurred every time I paid attention. See? And so I started realizing that every time I pay attention, I get to learn something new. Like my sponsor, when I started trusting my sponsor, he says, Tony, for me, I don't learn anything new when I'm talking. I only learn something new when I'm listening. See? And listening requires having an open mind. That's a magic. That's a miracle that happened in my life. That was one of the first miracles. Now you see my background, and that comes from one of our conventions, and it alludes to the steps, the fellowship, the program, the keys to freedom from active addiction. But for me, it has another meaning, and that a key is used to unlock something that is close to me. And for me, it's a key to opening my mind. The stats, the literature, my sponsor. One of the greatest things I heard a few days back at our meeting, a noon meeting, I heard a newcomer, recently arrived member of Narcotics Anonymous, say, I got a sponsor. We're working on step 1. That made my day, because I realized that he's experiencing some of the magic, some of the miracles. I love literature. The more I have stayed in recovery, the more I get to understand it, not because I've deciphered on my own, because of other people's perspectives. One of my favorite lines in our literature is in the Just for Today reading. That line is, just for today, through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. See, I cannot by myself, with my high intellect that I pride myself in, I'm joking about that. That's my ego talking. By myself, I cannot give myself a different perspective. I know for over 25 years of my using, I thought I had knowledge. I thought I could control it. I thought it would be different. I thought I wouldn't get busted. I thought I was not a criminal. I thought I was not homeless. Okay. Come to find out, through listening to other people and being gifted with the gift, as I heard our first speaker share, the gift of having an open mind that was an impossibility before. Okay. I started hearing things that told me that this was possible for me. And no matter how much time I have, that's in the past, the time that I have. The thing that matters is that today, just for today. See, and so now I have a whole list that I'm compiling of people who have given me the awareness and the gift through listening of things that teach me of open-mindedness. One of my friends that some of you may know, George C. from Philadelphia, he always says, anything I know is subject to revision. See, I know that it's said a lot throughout Narcotics Anonymous, but the reason I mentioned George C. is that's the person that I remember hearing it from. He gave me the gift of that awareness, not that he was the originator. See? And so I'm aware that, you know what, everything that I know is subject to revision if I pay attention, if I don't have a closed mind. And staying open-minded is the gift that for me is evidence of a power greater than myself that could give me the ability, which proves to me that I am being restored to sanity as long as I stay engaged. Because no matter how much information I have, no matter how many times I've worked the steps, no matter how much time I've spent working with newcomers, if I start separating myself, the same thing starts happening again. I start believing that bull that happens inside my head. I start believing that, you know, I've got this under control. Maybe, you know what, I cannot afford the open-mindedness that I'm gifted with tells me that I cannot, staying vigilant tells me that I cannot afford to believe that I'm here to teach you anything that you need to know. I'm here to learn. I'm here to listen. That's why for me, it's more important that I get here on time so that I can listen to something. That's where I get to learn again in Narcotics Anonymous through other people that God did not make a mistake when he gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. See, I'm supposed to listen more, pay attention more, have an open mind. But it's the more I took possession of what I thought was my life, because it's my life, the more I drove it to the ground, the more I became imprisoned by my addiction. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, the literature that's written by addicts for addicts, there's a passage in step 8 that says, by now we know that it's more important to understand than to be understood. See, I need to understand how to stay clean today. And you know what? It's by being consistent, like I heard. It's by paying attention. It's by, you know, the spiritual awakening we talk about. My sponsor tells me it's an awakening, Tony. Okay. And just like I awaken every day, if I don't take care of that awakening, I will fall asleep. I will fall into a spiritual coma like I had when I came into Narcotics Anonymous. See? And so I need to stay vigilant of my open-mindedness. And that open-mindedness is only available to me by interacting with other recovering addicts. One of my favorite pastimes at meetings is to listen and to engage one-on-one. That's why I like sometimes when some members stay after the meeting is over, because see, that's where my sponsor says, that's the gem, that's the jewel of one addict helping another. Okay, meetings are great, but during the meeting, we honor the tradition of not cross-talking, so we are able to listen, so that I'm able to listen. I'll speak for myself. See, and so for me, when Charles invited me to share with you, I said, is it an interactive or is it just share? I have a hard time. I'm still subject to my ego. I like to listen to my bull that I tell, because I have some rational knowledge, I have some experience. But see, I can become imprisoned by it. And so I would rather listen. I've become aware through that listening to other people that the longer I share, even though there's experience behind it, the more I talk, the less I listen, the less I learn. And the more I talk, the more stuck in my own self I am, because I'm trying to tell you how much I know, how much experience I have. That's not what my recovery is dependent on. It's about being egalitarian. It's about being inclusive. It's about all of us being equal. It's about all of us having a voice that says we recover together. Tony does not do this alone. I have the need for other people. That's what Tradition 1 is about. See? And so, you know what? One thing that I learned, I know I'm coming towards the end of my sharing time, but I need to cut it before that. My sponsor told me, Tony, you know what? For me, I learned this a long time ago and I try to practice it. A man who speaks too little is thought to be a fool by many because he speaks too little. But a man who speaks too much leaves no doubt. I need to leave some doubt and say, you know what, maybe, maybe not. He may be a fool, he may be not. But I keep getting better as long as I keep doing the work. Anyway, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share. I look forward to listening from other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.